We're recording. I'm on mute, so we'll start again. Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to a digital meeting of Cabinet via Microsoft Teams for Wednesday, 10th of February 2021. Welcome everyone. As you're all aware, the meeting will be recorded and made available to view via the Council's website. Thank you. Okay. Do we have any apologies for this meeting? Is anyone aware of any? No. No. Okay, thank you. Declarations of interest. Councillors and officers are reminded of their personal responsibility to declare any personal and/or prejudicial interest in respect of any items of business on the agenda in accordance with the Local Government Act 2000, the Council's Constitution and the Code of Conduct for both councillors and officers. Does anyone have anything? Okay, Nigel?
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I'd like to declare an interest on item number 8. I'm a council tenant.
Okay, Mr. Tranter?
Yes, thanks, Councillor George. Robert Tranter, the monitoring officer here at Caerphilly. Just to clarify, Councillor George, I understand that you are you rent a garage, don't you, from the council? Yeah. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay. So in those circumstances, I think that you would declare a personal interest as a tenant. As a person who rents a garage off the council. It's a personal interest only in that the report isn't specifically about your garage tenancy. So in paragraph 12 there is an exception. So it's a personal interest only, meaning that you can take part in the debate if you wish to do so and vote on the matter also. But your interest has been noted. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I probably won't take part in the debate or vote, really. I've never done it before, so I'll leave it as it is. Thank you.
Okay. Certainly there isn't any problem with you. If you wanted to contribute, it's no problem at all, but that's purely a matter for you, Councillor George. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for clarifying that, Mr. Tranter. Thank you. Okay, on to item agenda number 3, to approve and sign the following minutes from Cabinet held on 27th of January. I'll go through for levels of accuracy. Page 1, page 2, page 3. Is everyone happy to accept those and approve those minutes? If I can have a show of hands for everyone on screen. Yeah. Thank you. If you're happy with those, thank you. They're moved. Agenda item 4, as you know, is a standing item on the agenda. Councillor Ridgewell, your hand is still up. Is that just a delay? Councillor Ridgewell, did you want to come in? No. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Is everyone content with those then? There's a slight delay on everything, I'm afraid. So, John, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, come in.
Okay, fine.
Okay. Okay, so agenda item 4, as you will be aware, is the forward work programme. To note, if there's anyone got any issues with those, or are they happy with the content, and there's no amendments to any of those cabinet meetings. Is everyone happy with that? Can I have a show of hands, please? Thank you. Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item 5. And if I can please call in Councillor Gordon.
Thank you, Leader. Good morning, everybody. Legionella control policy. The purpose of the report is to seek Cabinet approval of the Legionella control policy. The authority has in place a number of policies setting out its approach to managing key health and safety risks. Due to the high risk associated with Legionella, there is a need for a policy setting out the authority's commitment to and the arrangement for managing Legionella safely. Competent specialist advice has been sought to assist with development of the policy. Cabinet asked to consider the approve the Legionella control policy attached to Appendix 1. The recommendation is made to ensure that the authority meets the statutory responsibilities under health and safety legislation. I move the report and the recommendations, Leader.
Thank you ever so much, Councillor Gordon. Councillor Phipps.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I'm more than happy to second this report. Thank you.
Thank you both. Would Lynn Donovan like to make any further comments on the report?
Thank you, Leader. As Councillor Gordon has said, it's important that we have this policy in place to ensure we're meeting our statutory obligations. The report has been developed with the assistance of an expert in the field of Legionella, and what's quite helpful in the report is it details the responsibilities of various officers within the authority, including corporate management team, heads of service, the chief exec, health and safety, building managers, and there's also guidance at the back for building managers. And hopefully now this will allow us, everybody, to be clear on what our responsibilities are, what individuals' responsibilities are, and we can support officers going forward with further training on this matter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you ever so much, Lynn. Thank you for that. Are there any questions for Lynn around this report? This is a statutory report that we have to approve. Is it every 3 years? Is it a cycle of every 3 years, Lynn?
We've got the review date on their, Leader, and we'll review it at that point, unless of course something happens in between and there's a legislative change. We would review it at that time then.
Okay, so it sits within the normal policy framework in terms of review. Yeah, okay.
It does, and as part of the review, Leader, it goes through the Health and Safety Committee, which is attended by elected members and the trade unions, and they have been consulted on this policy as part of that. It's not just officer consultation.
Thank you for clarifying that, Lynn, most helpful. Okay, well, if there are no questions on that, are we able to go to the vote now then, please, to approve the Appendix 1 and to approve the Legionella control policy? Thank you. Okay, thank you, everyone. That's been unanimously approved. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time, Lynn. Thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda item 6, and I still think this will be you as well. Cycle to Work Salary Sacrifice Scheme, and I'll hand over to Councillor Gordon. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Cycle to Work Salary Sacrifice Scheme. The purpose of the report is to see Cabinet's agreement to increase the current limit on the Cycle to Work Salary Sacrifice Scheme. The Council have operated the Cycle to Work Salary Sacrifice Scheme since June 2010. The scheme provides eligible employees the opportunity to lease a bike to enable them to commute to and from work. Under the scheme, employees can lease bikes from the provider with the deductions made through base salary, which are exempt from PAYE income tax and national insurance contributions. There are also savings to CCBC of employees' national insurance contributions, currently 13.8%, and apprenticeship levy of 0.5%. There are no pension savings to the employee or the council, as the scheme is pensionable. The scheme rules are set by HMRC, and until June 2019, the maximum value of the bike and accessories, helmets, lights, locks, etc. was £1,000. Since the revised guidance was issued in June 2019, it is possible to exceed the 1,000 limit provided the employer or the provider of the scheme gain authorisation from the Financial Conduct Authority. The Council's provider, Cycle Solutions Limited, are already registered with the FCA and can therefore act as principal and can appoint the council as an introducer appointment representative, IAR. Cycle Solutions Limited, as principal, must take responsibility for the council's activities under the Cycle to Work scheme, and therefore a written contract needs to be signed by both parties detailing their arrangements. Excuse me. Cycle Solutions must ensure that the council complies with the FCA rules in relation to the cycle agreements. The main benefit of setting up this arrangement is that the council set its own maximum limit, which would enable eligible employees to gain access to a wider choice of bikes. In particular, this would open the opportunity for employees to consider having an electric bike, which typically retails between £1,500 and £3,000 for a good quality machine. As per the recommendation at 3.1, Cabinet asked to consider the contents of this report and agree the increase of a limit for Cycle to Work salary sacrifice scheme from the current £1,000 to £3,000. As per recommendation 3.2, Cabinet also asked to agree that the council be appointed as the introducer appointed representatives. The recommendations are designed to encourage employees to make use of the Cycle to Work salary sacrifice scheme with the inclusion of electric bikes instead of cars, public transport, thus reintroducing the carbon emissions of staff travelling, thus reducing the carbon emissions of staff travelling to and from work. There are also potential health benefits to employees who cycle from work to and from work with the support of the council's wellbeing goals. With that, Leader, I will move the report on the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councillor Gordon. Councillor Ridgewell, please.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I'm more than happy to second this report. The benefits are immense. Councillor Gordon's just outlined them, but to reiterate, I mean, it helps us meet our carbon neutral targets, superb for health. On a personal level, I've got my own bike out since Christmas, and it's encouraging me to pedal a bit more myself.
Thank you ever so much, Councillor Ridgewell. Absolutely, this scheme has been running for many years in many organisations up and down the country, and it is a fantastic opportunity for all staff to have active travel to work, which I think, as you say, and you've just highlighted, helps with our carbon reduction, which is really, really important. Okay, I've got a few indications to come in. Let's have a look. Councillor Morgan, please.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I just think that £3,000 is quite a low figure, and I would like to see it amended to perhaps £5,000 if it's possible. I don't know if that is. The reason I would ask that is that bikes, especially electric bikes, can be considerably more expensive than £3,000, and it seems just to bring it in line with, there are so many businesses where people use what they call tax efficiencies by buying their vehicles through a certain system. And of course, vehicles, you can talk in 50, 100, 150,000 pounds, you know, for some vehicles. So it seems like the bicycle is being the poor relative here. So I'd like to see it raised up to at least £5,000 really. I do know of somebody. I mean, the benefits, you know, for these are quite incredible. And I do know of somebody who actually suffers with a bad heart, and his electric bicycle is attached to his heart monitor through his phone, and he cycles the bicycle for exercise. But once his heart rate reaches over 125, the app on the phone makes the bicycle, the electrics kick in, so as to you know, but technology, so that obviously it doesn't stress his heart. So, and I mean, technology like this isn't cheap. So I would like to move it, that we increase the value, if it's possible, to £5,000. And I'd like to come back on another question later.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Morgan. Can I just bring in Lynn Donovan then to comment on that request to increase the limit to £5,000? I suppose we need to understand that any tax implications therein. So before we move the recommendation.
Thank you, Leader. There is no maximum value limit that we need to place on the upper limits. That there doesn't need to be one, so we could move it to £5,000. I suppose we just need to be alert to any demand for this, because should we have a high number of demand, it's the potential risk to the authority then in terms of the commitment that is being made for the cycles. And I'm not for a minute saying that will happen, but it's something we do need to be alert to should the demand increase. But we can build that into the contract. The only thing that would be a stipulation would be, as per the report, that the staff members applying meet the requirements for it. But the upper limit doesn't need to be at 3,000. We can increase it to 5,000.
Okay, you refer to demand there, Lynn. Would there be any benefit in us setting it at this limit today and then reviewing it in 6 months, say, to see what the demand is, to see if there's any implications?
It's something we could do, Leader. Again, I think we're not really sure what the demand potentially could be. We've had a number of inquiries. We've had requests from staff asking, is there an opportunity to increase the limit because they're interested in the electric bikes? And I think the whole pandemic has given people a very different view of exercise, whether it be walking, cycling, and I think lots more people are interested now. The report gives you information on the people that have taken up this scheme so far. Whether we have a higher take-up for the electric bikes is quite difficult to say at the moment, but we have had interest. Sorry, I can't be more specific.
No, that's fine, Lynn. Okay, if I bring Councillor Morgan back in to comment on that, and then I'll go to Councillor Whiting.
Okay, so first of all, as a result of what Lynn has just said, then I would like to actually move the amendment. If somebody would be willing to second it, that would be great. I mean, we have. You're quite right. There can be a risk, or whatever. There can be. It could affect the council, but we also are a council that has made a climate emergency declaration, and we must be shown to be supporting our own declared emergency, and therefore that is definitely one of the reasons why I would be moving that amendment.
Okay, so your amendment, we've also asked for a review as well, because I think that's important to understand what's happening, with the take up and understanding the impact. So I'm just conscious that actually before you move I don't know whether anyone wants to come in and comment on any of that. I don't know what Ross was going to say in the meantime. So can we just have the debate and then we can look at the moving and seconding of the amendment, just so we can hear the debate. Ross?
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Mine was a question really, and although obviously we make our own decisions and and so on, but I wondered whether we have any information on what our neighbours are doing in this regard, whether this limit will put us well above or even level with others. I'd be interested to know. Not that it necessarily affects the decision that we make, but I think it would be interesting to know.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that you weren't proposing something different. That was why. Councillor Morgan, can you just be clear on your amendment then, please, to the recommendations?
Yeah, I'd like to amend the maximum value to be increased from 3,000 up to 5,000. And as you say, in 6 months or 12 months' time, if we can review the impacts on the council. You're
going to come in? Okay, thank you. Christina.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I'm just mindful, this is the first time this report has come forward. Absolutely agree with the sentiments that you've articulated around the need to encourage as far as possible our staff to use this facility. But I'm also mindful of what Lynn has outlined, is that at the moment we don't really know what the demand is. And certainly Councillor Whiten has raised another point in terms of, where if you were minded to increase that threshold level, where that would position us, elsewhere in Wales. So my suggestion would be, members, is that if you're minded to agree this level threshold as it is, but with that report coming back in 6 months' time, because we'll have a lot more information for you then. We'll have the demand. We'll be able to do that benchmarking information piece of work as well that Councillor Whiten has suggested, so that you're armed with a lot more information in order to make that recommendation if you feel minded to at that time. But certainly this is a matter for you, and if you're minded to support the motion that Councillor Morgan is minded to put forward today, that is entirely up to you as members. But certainly I thought I'd offer my suggestion there. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Christina. Councillor Ridgewell. You're on mute, John.
Apologies. Thank you, Leader. I'm minded to second Councillor Morgan's motion, because I think that in 6 months' time circumstances might change. I think we want to be able to be ahead of the curve, and if there's an opportunity, I think now with the circumstances as they are, for people to actually join this scheme, I think it probably wouldn't benefit us if we constrained it by some financial limit, which means that some people couldn't actually do it. So I'm prepared to second that motion.
Okay, then thank you, Councillor Ridgewell. So it's been moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Ridgewell. Can we go to the vote then to add that amendment to the report? I suppose we want to, if you could just put show of hands for the amendment. Okay, and if that can be noted on the report then with that amendment to the upper limit. And Councillor Morgan, did you want to clarify anything?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to ask a further question before we go to the vote on it and shut the debate down. I was just wondering, I don't know if Lynn could help me here. The use of a car in this organisation gets 45 pence a mile. I understand that a motorcycle gets 25 pence a mile. Something which, as a motorcyclist, I've always wondered why the motorcycle is second. But if somebody was to use a bicycle, is there a payment for using a bicycle? I mean, if we are actually going to talk seriously about active travel and our carbon commitment, could somebody use a bicycle for duties within the council? Is it a possibility?
Lynn, did you want to come in on that?
Yeah, thank you. There isn't currently a payment for bicycles, Councillor Morgan. The mileage rates that we pay are determined by HMRC, and we follow their guidance. But I'm sure with the introduction of electric bikes, as they become more popular, it is certainly something that we're all going to have to look at as employers. And I'm sure at some point we'll be having some guidance through on that, whether it be through HMRC or through the NJC or one of the other bodies. But at the moment, there isn't a payment for it.
Okay, thanks, Lynn. Well, as the Wellbeing of Future Generations champion, I will be reminding officers regularly on this one. Thanks very much. Thank you.
No, and I'm sure there are organisations up and down the land that will be reviewing their mileage policies around this sort of move to active travel. So I'm sure that will be a coming. Okay, the amendment then to the recommendations in the report have been moved and been seconded. We've taken a show of hands to accept that. So therefore we will go. Mark Williams, did you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Leader. Just in terms of Councillor Morgan's question about HMRC, I think there are rates with HMRC for cycling. I think their motorcycle rate, I think, is 24 pence a mile in 2020. And I think their cycling rate was actually 20 pence a mile. but obviously they need to feature in our policies.
So we need a review of our policies then. Yeah, Christina, do you want to come in on that?
Yes, thank you, Leader. There's a couple of things in this space around the issue that Councillor Morgan has highlighted. You'll recall that through our PSB and also through G10, that there is a big piece of work around transport that we are working through collaboratively, and inevitably it will lead to that very question, Councillor Morgan, around the appropriateness of the existing mileage rates that we have in place. And it would make absolute sense to do that across the region, because at the very least it will involve some detailed discussions with our trade union colleagues. And also it is featuring as part of our workforce development work stream on the transformation programme. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. Okay, Lynn, you've still got your hand up. Did you want to come in?
Yeah, just to echo what Christina has said, Leader, as part of our Agile Workforce work stream, we're also reviewing a number of policies, and one of them would include the mileage rate, also tax benefits and tax relief as well. So they are being picked up as part of that, as well as us looking at the sort of national and regional pictures.
Okay, thank you ever so much, Lynn, for clarifying that. Okay, Councillor Ridgewell.
Yeah, thanks, Leader. Mr. Williams has actually made the point. Certainly in a previous existence, when I used to work in London, there was definitely a mileage rate for push bikes, and I'm pleased to note that it still exists now, and I look forward to it being perhaps added to our policies in the future.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And I'm just checking that everyone has voted. Yep. Thank you very much. Everything is really slow. On my screen, it's not showing that everyone has voted yet. But I think that's the internet. If anyone is seeing anything different and can see that it's been confirmed and it's unanimous, please shout. Okay,
we've got a majority. We got 6, but there's no.
Yeah, it was only 6 has voted.
Yeah.
Okay, if anyone
it
had
says
different...
9 for me, Leader.
Mine shows 9, Leader.
Yeah, right, that's fine. Okay, if Charlotte can confirm that, then that's great. Thank you. Yeah, it's got up to 9 now. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for that. That's unanimous, and thank you for the amendment. Okay, moving now to item number 7 on the agenda, which is to note the annual audit summary for 2020. And if I could invite Gareth Jones from the Wales Audit Office to speak to the report, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader, and good morning, members of Cabinet. This report is slightly different to ones that you will have seen before, so I just wanted to set some background for you members. You will have previously received annual improvement reports which have come to Cabinet, and in addition a separate report called an annual audit letter. As part of streamlining our activity, we've decided to combine both of those reports into this single document called the annual audit summary, which are being produced for each of the councils across Wales from this year onwards. So what this does, this report summarises all the work that's been completed by Audit Wales since the last annual audit improvement report in July 2019. The initial part of the report summarises some of the key facts about the council, so it talks about the makeup of the councillors, also talks about the amount of money that you spend on providing services, £371 million in 2019-20, which is the 5th highest spend of the 22 unitary councils in Wales, and also talks about the level of usable financial reserves, which is equivalent to 27% of your annual spend on services, the joint 3rd highest percentage of the 22 councils in Wales. Also talks about the levels of deprivation in the county borough, and also looking forward, talks about the population changes that are predicted to take place in the next 20 years. So in producing this report, we are reporting against the 4 duties that the Auditor General for Wales has, which is to audit your accounts, so to audit your financial statements to ensure that public money is being properly accounted for. We have to undertake work that looks at the arrangements that you have to get value for money for the way in which you use the resources, and that we have to be satisfied that you've done that. Continuous improvement, and also a cabinet member for Future Generations has already alluded to the Sustainable Development Principle. We also look at some of the work that you do around sustainable development. So moving on to the next page. One thing that we have tried to highlight in this report is that we've recognised the huge strain and the way in which the council has had to respond to the pandemic, and we have then reshaped our work programme and found new ways of working to try and reduce the impact of our work programme on public bodies at the time where the response to the pandemic is absolutely crucial. So moving on to what we found, and members, you'll be aware that the financial statements were audited and were presented to council in November, and the Auditor General gave an unqualified, true and fair opinion on those. And at the moment, with the ongoing work around the grants claim is going on, and the outcome of that will be reported into the next audit committee. Moving on, so this is now around the value for money work and also the sustainable development work. In November 2019, we published a piece of work looking at social care, looking at the work that the council was doing to prevent unnecessary admissions to hospital and facilitating timely discharges. And we found that there are examples there that show the council has applied the development principle in practice. However, it needs to consider how it can effectively meet anticipated challenges over the longer term. So that is the big challenge. And I think, since that work has developed and the work that you've undertaken around your strategic recovery framework with the Caerphilly Cares philosophy, there are some links there for you to be aware of. Continuous improvement, we have certified that you've met the legal duties under the Local Government Wales measure during 2020-21. So that is to publish your improvement plan and also to publish your assessment of performance. And obviously, members, you'll be aware that the commencement of the Local Government Act and the duties around self-assessment will actually overtake those duties as those are repealed. Financial sustainability, we published this report in March 2020 and reported it to Audit Committee in autumn. We looked at the financial sustainability of every council in Wales, and we concluded for Caerphilly that the council has a strong financial position with an increasingly high level of usable reserves, a relatively stable level of borrowing, and significant budget underspent in recent years. That we are now planning to undertake a further second follow-up report in 2020-21, and we'll be meeting the leader and senior officers in the next month or so to undertake that work and obviously report that back into Audit Committee in due course. The National Fraud Initiative, we're aware that the counter-fraud strategy, a new counter-fraud strategy is being presented to Audit Committee in April 21, and that takes account of the findings of the local work around the National Fraud Initiative and the counter-fraud work that the Auditor General has recently published. Environmental health, we published that in November 2019, which found that the council should use its strong financial position to explore more innovative ways in which it can ensure the long-term financial and operational sustainability of that service, whilst contributing to the council's wider strategic objectives. Obviously, that was published in November 2019, and you have your ambitious transformation programme, which may help to reshape all your services as you move forward through that process. Leisure services, we published this in April 2020. We undertook the work in the autumn of 2019. And we came back to look at how effectively you addressed our proposal for improvement in 2016 around developing a holistic leisure strategy. And we concluded that the council has taken effective action to develop and agree a holistic vision and strategy for its sports and leisure services, but now needs to take some further important steps to deliver on its strategic ambitions. We reported that to the Environment and Regeneration Committee yesterday evening, and I think the important points for us coming out of that are that the council needs to take account of the pandemic and to just review its strategy in light of the pandemic and how that may be affecting its sports and active recreation strategy moving forward. As you'll be aware, Care Inspectorate Wales published their local performance report in August 2020, and the following section is around a number of our local government studies that are applied across the whole of each council in Wales, and a number of those may be of reference and value to the council as it moves forward. The front door to social care, and I know that officers who are working on the Caerphilly Cares work have been in receipt of that, particular report, and that found that whilst councils are preventing social care demand, information, advice and assistance are not consistently effective. A range of the other reports go through and pick up on issues such as the progress nationally on implementing the Violence Against Women, Domestic Abuse and Sexual Violence Act, and rough sleeping in Wales. Everybody's problem, no one's responsibility, which are obviously key issues for all councils. The one that I would pick out for you towards the end is the commercialisation in local government, and aware that Cabinet, you've approved your commercialisation strategy, and as part of the field work for that report, we came in and discussed with officers the plans that the council had at that time, and also Cabinet member. And within that report, there are some self-assessment checklists that may prove to be useful as the council moves forward in that agenda. And just finally, members, the planned work that we have in 2020-21, we try and take forward the significant risks and the issues facing councils during 2021 in light of the pandemic. So we have a recovery planning project, which is in response to the COVID pandemic, and we're picking up your work around your transformation programme and your corporate reviews there. Our COVID learning project, where we're sharing and identifying learning from the way in which public bodies have responded to the pandemic. We complete our assurance and risk assessment process every year, and we'll be meeting Cabinet and senior management team in April to look at what those risks are and how we may address those through our audit plan for next year. And then finally, the review of the council's financial sustainability, which, as I mentioned earlier, we will be implementing the next couple of months, and we'll be reporting to Audit Committee shortly after that. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you ever so much, Gareth, for that, and walking us through the report. You know, and it's a pleasing, it's a pleasing report to note today from our perspective, and you've highlighted some good comments there in terms of some of the recommendations that we followed up on, and on the high level of reports that have come through the various scrutiny committees throughout the year. So thank you for walking us through those in detail. Thank you. If I can go to Councillor Stenner now then to move the report.
Thank you, Leader. Okay, so the purpose of this report is to present to Cabinet the Annual Audit Wales Summary 2020. As referenced by Gareth in his introduction, previously this report was titled the Annual Improvement Report. However, from 2020, this report has been renamed to the Annual Audit Summary. The audit report attached to Appendix 1 provides a summary of the audit work completed for the authorities since the last Annual Improvement Report, which was issued in July. Before I move the recommendation in this report, I would like to highlight some areas of the report which I feel are key to the annual audit summary, first being around continuous improvement. It is pleasing to note that the Auditor General certified that the Council has met its legal duties for improvement planning and reporting, and also believes that it is likely to meet the requirements of the Local Government Measure 2019-20 to 21. Financial Sustainability Review. This concluded that the Council has a strong financial position with an increasingly high level of usable reserves, a relatively stable level of borrowing, and significant budget underspends in recent years. This means that we are well placed to face the financial challenges that lie ahead, and our transformation programme and ambitious place shaping plan will be key drivers in ensuring that we provide quality services and remain financially resilient in future years. The level of reserves. Whilst we had the joint third highest level of usable reserves as of the 31st of March 2020, it is worth reiterating that we also had the fifth highest level of expenditure in 2019-20. As Cabinet will already be aware, approval has already been given to set aside £28.6 million of the usable reserves to support the place shaping plan. The environmental health follow-up review. It would be remiss of me not to point out that the Council has been prudent in not reducing budgets in this area at such a key time. It is also important to note regarding the leisure follow-up review that Audit Wales has concluded that the Council has taken effective action to develop and agree a holistic version strategy and its support and leisure provision, We acknowledge that we must now deliver on the key strategic ambitions, and that work is already underway. Examples of this is the investment at Newbridge Leisure Centre and a number of new 3G pitches across the county borough. Finally, the commercialisation in local government review. Cabinet has now agreed the Council's commercial and investment strategy, and we have launched the Licence to Innovate scheme to generate ideas for more commercial approaches to service delivery. The recommendation is shown at 3.1 that Cabinet note this report, and the reason for recommendation that Cabinet are aware of the work undertaken by Audit Wales and the key findings. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stenner. Can I go to Councillor Cook now, please?
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I'd like to second this item, and I'm glad to see environment and health has been protected, especially at a time when these officers are needed to help with a pandemic and the wider public health. I'm also happy to note that as an authority, we are supporting people to access a wide range of options and trying to reduce demand in social services. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you both for that. And to add further, I suppose, learning through the COVID experience is key for us as we look forward to reshaping some of our policies going forward. So I very much look forward to that in terms of the way we plan our organisation going forward in light of the corporate reviews and the transformation policy that you've already highlighted. So thank you for that. Would anyone like to come in and make any comment on that? Are there any questions for Gareth? Councillor Morgan?
Yes, thanks. If I could just ask Gareth, I mean, it's good to have such a positive report. And as you mentioned there, we have such things as commercialisation, transformation, Caerphilly's Cares, agile working, the licence to innovate, all this on top of dealing with COVID. I'm just wondering, are the Wales Audit in favour, you know, of our approach? It seems so through your report. And are Wales Audit going to work with us, obviously, to make these big changes, these commercialisation strategies? You know, there's nothing without risk, and you know, to make these big changes, there may be mistakes made along the way. And are Wales Audit on side with us in this transformation?
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. I think it would be fair to say that there are risks with any activity that any public body undertakes, and at the moment there are big challenges to any public body in terms of the changing landscape that you all face. And I think if we'd sat here a year ago, I don't think we would have predicted that we'd have been through the year that we've been through. I think we recognise that you've developed your strategic recovery framework, you've developed your transformation strategy and your corporate reviews, and as part of our recovery planning process, we have engaged with the team who are leading that transformation process and the corporate reviews, and we've been tracking alongside, asking probing questions around the work that you're doing on an ongoing basis, so that we can provide that in real time rather than perhaps provide you with a view 18 months, 9 months down the line, and identify things that you may have been able to take a more value for money approach, or to take account of the sustainable development principle more effectively. We're trying to do that in real time as you go forward. So those conversations are ongoing. We've been engaged with your team who've been working on the agile working. We're obviously engaged with your team who are undertaking your sustainable finance review, and we're obviously engaged with all of the reviews, but also looking at your decision-making review with a view to that being informed by a piece of work that we're currently concluding around governance in the council. So we are engaged. We have to be separate to you, quite rightly, but we are feeding in those views in real time rather than trying to allow you to take all of those decisions and then coming in and reviewing those after the fact. We're trying to do that in real time with you. I think that's a challenge that both sides are finding is an interesting way of working, and we're trying to make that work alongside that. And obviously we will be trying to summarise that work around recovery planning as it draws to a conclusion in the coming months. And obviously we will find a forum to report that back as we go forward. But we do recognise the risks. We do also recognise the ambition that you have, And obviously, noted on your forward work programme, in 2 weeks' time, you'll be producing your place shaping agenda, which obviously will be reflected in our financial sustainability review as we come forward and present that back to you in due course. But to summarise, Councillor Morgan, we are engaged with you. We are providing that challenge in terms of how public money is being used by you, and that is a robust challenge as we go along. And we hope that that's providing some value and some perspective to the work that you're doing, quite rightly, locally determined, as you go forward.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Gareth. It does give me great comfort that we're working alongside each other there and in real time. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, and just to echo that, you know, it is pleasing to hear that more proactive approach in terms of the real-time assurity and questioning. I think that helps everyone along the way, as you say, you know, in terms of robustness, resilience, and all those things that we need to evidence to yourselves, you know, on our journey of transformation, which is really good that it's real time. I would welcome that very much so. Okay, you've just touched on the place shaping after looking at our forward work programme. I think that's important to note. And I think Councillor Stenner referred to the 28.6 million that we're going to take from usable reserves to bolster that place shaping agenda. And as you will know, and you will find out in due course, it is an ambitious programme of works that we want to do and take forward through the council. So thank you for that. Christina, did you want to come in?
Yeah, thank you very much, Leader, and thank you, Gareth, for the report. And from my perspective, it's very reassuring that the report from our colleagues at Audit Wales doesn't present me with any surprises. You know, it very much captures my own perspective of where we are as an organisation. And, you know, a conversation with the Auditor General when he first was appointed, he recognised very early on that as councils progress into this space, that they will need to take some risk. And as a result of that, he recognised that Audit Wales's approach needed to change. And, you know, Gareth has outlined that cultural shift that has taken place across Audit Wales over recent months, which certainly has been most, you know, welcomed from an officer perspective. And the fact that our colleagues at Audit Wales are working alongside us, but being very clear of where those lines are, those lines are drawn in terms of our respective roles and responsibilities, you know, giving us that real-time information and that critical challenge in a constructive way is certainly most helpful. So I'd certainly like to thank Gareth and colleagues at Audit Wales for that new approach. And particularly, it'd be remiss of me not to mention the work that we have been working through on our governance, our corporate governance, and colleagues at Audit Wales have, you know, challenged us constructively in that space around the improving work that we've done around our governance and for reporting back our strong progress that we have made in that place, and which is particularly important given, you know, the pace of change of this organisation that we are currently driving forward. And it's reassuring to know that we are on very solid footings there, particularly around our governance. So thank you, Gareth, and look forward to working with you in the next 12 months because it's certainly going to be an interesting one. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you ever so much, Christina, and thank you. Yes, and just to echo that as well, thank you, Gareth, for coming along today to present your report. So without further ado, we'll go to the vote then to note the report. We can have the voting card. Thank you. Okay, thank you. That's been passed unanimously, and thank you ever so much for your time today, Gareth. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. Okay, on to the next item on the agenda then is the housing revenue account charges. If I can hand over to Councillor Phipps, please.
Thank you, Leader. Members, the purpose of this report is for you to consider the proposal to increase the council housing rent charges. The charges predominantly focus on council house rents, but this report also includes a proposal to increase garage rents. It is intended for the increases to be effective for the housing revenue account for the 2021-2022 financial year. Members are requested to consider and give a view on the recommendations set out at 3.1 of the report. There are three options. Option 1 is an increase of 1.5%, which equates to an additional £1.36 per week for tenants. This is the maximum amount allowed under the rent policy, which will set our rent just within the low end of the previous year's policy target rent band. Option 2, an increase of 1%. This equates to an additional 91 pence per week for our tenants. And option 3 is no increase in rents. The option I am recommending today is option 1. This was unanimously supported at Housing and Regen Scrutiny Committee. This is an increase of 1.5%. This will be the lowest rent increase set by the authority for a number of years. However, any increase can cause concern. It is worth noting that 72% of tenants receive housing benefits, and Caerphilly tenants pay lower rents on average when compared with council rents across Wales, and are also low when compared to the private sector. If charges are not increased annually, it will have a detrimental effect on subsequent years, as higher increases are then needed to recover shortfalls. The housing business plan relies on increases to remain viable, to support and maintain our current housing stock, to progress with our ambitious plans to provide new affordable homes, to decarbonise our existing stock, as well as providing much needed support to tenants to reduce homelessness. I therefore recommend option 1 of the options set out at 3.1 of this report. Thank you.
Thank you ever so much, Councillor Phipps. Councillor Ridgewell.
Thank you, Leader. My buttons are very slow this morning, so apologies for that. Yeah, I'm delighted to second this report. Amongst the many things that the report demonstrates is our total commitment to increasing the supply of affordable homes within the county borough, and all the while recognising the need to balance value for money alongside affordability. Critically, what this report demonstrates is that our ambitious plans going forward will not be placing an excessive financial burden upon our tenants. And I repeat myself and say I will second this report. Excuse me, I've got a cough. Thank you.
So do you have anything further to add now you've coughed?
No, I think I'll leave it on the cough, Leader. Thank you.
Okay, no worries. Thank you ever so much, Councillor Ridgewell. Okay, thank you very much for that and for highlighting that. I know we've got a number of officers with us today, so if anyone has any further questions to present to them, then please be welcome. But can I just ask a quick question? What would the implication, I suppose this is to Leslie that's with us, from a financial aspect, what impact will that mean then? If you can just highlight what impact, if we did no increase now, what that would do in terms of our account.
Thank you, Lisa. Hi everybody. Yeah, obviously there's an impact because we did allow for a 2.5% increase on the business plan, so that straight away there is a reduction, even with the highest recommendation on the report at 1.5%. What I would say is because of the pandemic this year, positive is not the right word I want to use, but we won't be spending the money on the WH programme that we had anticipated. Therefore, we will have an underspend this year going forward to the tune of about 13 million. Of course, we'll need that money going forward to maintain the programme next year. But what that means is that we won't be borrowing this year. So therefore, we'll have some underspend on the capital financing charges, and that will help with small underspend from the 1.5%. So we should be okay there or thereabouts. And I think the actual financing of the programme itself is okay because we are anticipating to complete that programme next year. So we should have enough resource for that.
Thank you ever so much, Leslie. And I suppose then small incremental increases is helpful to the HRA.
Oh, without a doubt. We couldn't, you know, if we had a nil impact, it would just get worse and worse and worse, and it will compound year on year on year. If we had a nil increase next year, we are then starting off in a much worse position than the following year. So we do need to try and rise and try to keep incrementally with the inflation on other costs that are going on around us for materials and wages and the like.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Leslie. Sean, did you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Leader. Yeah, I just wanted to add it is a lot far smaller increase on rents this year than we've applied over a number of years, as identified by Councillor Phipps. And as Leslie pointed out, whilst we may not need to borrow because of the underspend this year, obviously we're building up a backlog. So going forward, there will be this work to pick up on. And what we got to maintain is adequate income levels to ensure that we don't increase our borrowing. We maintain at least existing services rather than reduce them. And as you know, we've got an ambitious development programme that we're trying to initiate. So we need additional funding to support that. We also got the decarbonisation agenda to deliver on, and we've got to continue to maintain our properties to the Welsh Housing Quality Standard for our tenants as well. So it is key that we maintain income levels going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you ever so much, Sean. Thank you for highlighting that. Okay, I've got another indication to come in. Sandra, would you like to come in?
Thank you, Councillor Marsden. I would just like to say that the investment by Caerphilly Council in the Caerphilly Cares financial support team has meant our team has been increased by 4 full-time equivalent staff. So we are there to support our residents in this very difficult time, maximise their income. Although the 1.5% increase will have an effect, there's 28% of our tenants that will have the increase. The support is there to help them. We have been successful last year, over £1 million additional income, and I'm pleased that we've managed to increase the team. So not only can that support be provided going forward, we can offer support to more of our residents. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you again. Thank you, Sandra, for highlighting that. Okay, there's no more indications to come in, so I think I know we've got a slight lag on everything here, and the system is very slow, but I've got no one else indicating to come in, so we'll go to the vote then, please, Charlotte. It's still a bit slow. Okay. Technically, should we have had one abstain there? Anyway, it's unanimous anyway. We've got 8 votes. Has anyone had difficulty?
Councillor Leader, I don't think Councillor George was taking part.
Oh, he's done it now. It's done. It's come through. Thank you. All sorted. That's unanimous. Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Phipps. Okay. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for officers' time today, and thank you for highlighting some of those important issues on the report. So thank you. That concludes the meeting for today then, and I would like to say thank you, everyone, for attending, and thank you for everyone's input. Most appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks ever so much, Sean.